The world doesn't play fair. You can be the most honest person in the room and still get betrayed. You can be the most skilled person on the team and still watch someone less capable take your seat. That's not bad luck. That's just how the game works. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The people who understand that this early usually win. The people who refuse to accept it usually lose, and they lose repeatedly because they keep expecting a fair game that was never being played. There's a name for the mindset that survives this kind of world. Some call it dark intelligence. It's not something you're born with in a comfortable life. It's forged, usually in betrayal, humiliation, or defeat. When most people break under that kind of pain, something else happens to a small percentage of them. They take the pain and convert it into structure, into strategy, into a kind of quiet, internal fortress that nothing external can easily touch again. You can't see this kind of power, but everyone in the room can feel it. Here's the simplest way to picture it. Most people are playing checkers, reactive, one move at a time, driven by whatever emotion just hit them. The person with this kind of intelligence is playing chess. Silent, patient, watching 3 moves ahead while everyone else is still arguing about the last move. That's the entire difference. Not intelligence in the IQ sense, intelligence in the timing sense. Before we go further, I need to plant one rule in your head, because without it, everything I'm about to say can be twisted into something ugly. This information is for protection, not destruction. The goal is never to become the villain. The goal is to stop being a character in someone else's manipulation, to become what psychologists sometimes call unmanipulatable. Not cold, not cruel, just no longer an easy target. If you agree with that framing, say this in your head right now. I choose to be strategically intelligent, not emotionally reactive. If you want to lock it in, drop that exact sentence in the comments. It's a small thing, but writing it down makes it stick. With that guardrail in place, let's get into the 8 laws. And I'll warn you now, law number 6 is going to feel uncomfortable. Most people don't like hearing it. Stay for it anyway, because it's probably the most useful one on this list. Law 1. Calculated opacity. Here's the first shift. Stop being a fully open book. Not because you have something to hide, because information is leverage, and leverage disappears the moment you hand it out for free. Machiavelli put it simply. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. That gap between the two, appearance and reality, is where your power lives. Here's the psychology behind it. Humans are wired to fill in blanks. When you give someone half a story, their mind automatically rushes to complete it, and whatever they imagine tends to be more compelling than the truth would have been. Give someone the full picture, and their curiosity dies instantly. Give them a partial picture, and their imagination keeps working on your behalf for free long after the conversation ends. Let's make this concrete. Someone asks what you're doing this weekend. The average response, probably just staying home, watching some movies. True, harmless, and instantly forgettable. Nobody thinks about that sentence again. The strategic response, I've got something I need to take care of. And then you change the subject. Same amount of actual information disclosed, almost none. But one version makes you forgettable and the other makes you slightly magnetic. That's the entire law in one example. Your information is currency. Stop spending all of it in every conversation. The less you explain and justify yourself, the more weight your words carry when you finally do speak. Law 2. The adaptive persona. Here's the second shift, and it directly builds on the first. Once you control what you reveal, you also get to control how you present it to different people, differently, on purpose. Think of water. Pour it into a cup, it becomes cup-shaped. Pour it into a bottle, it becomes bottle-shaped. But its chemical structure, 2 hydrogen atoms, 1 oxygen, never changes. That's the model. You already do a version of this instinctively. You don't talk to your grandmother the way you talk to your friends, and you don't talk to your friends the way you talk in a job interview. The strategic version just makes that instinct deliberate instead of accidental. In practice, it looks like this. With an analytical person, lead with numbers and logic. With an emotional person, lead with empathy and feeling. With a practical person, skip the theory and go straight to, here's how this works and what you get. With a big picture person, paint the future vision first, details later. Machiavelli warned rulers to never appear to lack mercy, honesty, or integrity in front of others. The appearance matters as much as the substance in how people respond to you. Here's the guardrail, because this is the law most likely to get misused. Adapting your delivery is not the same as abandoning your values. A diamond has dozens of faces and reflects light differently from every angle, but it's still one solid stone. If your core principles shift depending on who's in the room, that's not adaptation anymore. That's just dishonesty wearing a strategy costume. Law 3. The Principle of Detachment. Now, here's where it gets powerful. What you don't fear losing, nobody can use to control you. Think about the last time you were desperate for something. A job offer, someone's approval, a relationship to work out. Desperation has a smell. People sense it and they use it, consciously or not. Detachment isn't coldness, it's freedom. Most people are hostages to their own fears. Fear of losing a job, fear of losing a relationship, fear of what people think of them, and that fear quietly hands control of their decisions to whoever else is in the room. Picture two people negotiating a deal. Person A needs this deal badly. Their whole plan depends on it. Person B would like the deal to work out, but has other options and is genuinely fine walking away. Every single time, Person B holds the real power in that room, not because they're smarter or richer, but because they're not attached to one specific outcome. Machiavelli's version of this was blunt. Since it's hard to be both loved and feared, if you have to choose to be respected over being desperately liked. Detachment gives you that same posture in daily life. Clarity instead of panic, and immunity to being manipulated through your own fear. You don't build this overnight. You build it in small reps. Stop needing to win every argument. Stop needing everyone to like you. Stop needing every plan to go exactly as scripted. Each small release trains the same muscle. Law 4. Silent leverage. Here's the fourth law, and it's the one I mentioned earlier, the one almost nobody uses correctly because it requires patience most people simply don't have. Real power doesn't shout, it waits. Amateurs raise their voice and force compliance. The strategic move is quieter. You position yourself so that people choose to give you what you want, without ever being pressured into it. In conversation, this shows up as the discipline of silence. When someone asks you a hard question, don't answer instantly. Pause. Look at them, thinking. Let the silence stretch a few seconds longer than feels comfortable. That silence does two things. It makes your eventual answer carry more weight, and it makes the other person uncomfortable enough that they often fill the gap by revealing more than they meant to. In negotiations, the leverage is simply having other options and never needing to announce them out loud. The quiet willingness to walk away does more work than any argument could. In a workplace, this looks like becoming the person everyone quietly goes to when there's a problem, without ever campaigning for that reputation. You don't need to announce your value. You just need to consistently be the answer to other people's problems and let word travel on its own. The requirement here is delayed gratification. You're planting seeds you won't see grow for months. Machiavelli's own line applies well here. Nothing great was ever achieved without risk. And patience, in this context, is its own kind of risk, because you're betting on a payoff you can't yet see. Law 5. The psychological echo. Here's the fifth law, and it might be the one that builds the deepest trust the fastest. People don't buy ideas. They buy solutions to what's actually bothering them. And most of the time, they can't even articulate what that is. Every person you talk to is silently asking three questions. Do you see me? Do you understand me? Do you value me? Answer those three questions, even without saying a word about them directly, and you earn a level of trust that facts and arguments never will. Machiavelli noticed this exact dynamic. Men in general judge more by sight than by touch. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few feel what you are. Most people are only capable of seeing the surface. The ones who can sense what's underneath it hold real influence. Here's the difference in practice. A friend says, "I hate my job." The average response is, "Then find a new one." Quick, logical, and it lands flat every time because it wasn't actually what they needed. The psychological echo response sounds more like, "It sounds like you feel like your effort isn't being recognized, or maybe you're craving something that actually challenges you." Notice what happened. You didn't solve anything. You reflected the feeling underneath the words back to them. That single move builds more trust than 10 pieces of good advice, because it answers the real question they were silently asking. Do you actually understand me? Once you understand what someone genuinely needs, security, recognition, freedom, frame everything you say to them through that lens. If they value security, present your idea as the safe, stable option. Same idea, completely different reception. Law 6, Ambiguous Morality. Here's the one I told you would feel uncomfortable. Real power doesn't always live in black and white. It lives in the gray zone, and pretending otherwise will make you weaker, not more moral. To be clear, this is not permission to be cruel or dishonest. It's what you could call pragmatic ethics, judging your actions by their actual outcome, not by how nice they make you look in the moment. Machiavelli said it plainly. When you can't have both love and fear, it's safer to be respected than to be liked. Sometimes the decision that looks harshest in the short term is the most ethical one over the long term, because it protects more people than a nice decision would have. Take a manager with an employee who's mistreating clients and cutting corners. The soft, surface-level, kind move is giving them another chance, again. The pragmatically ethical move is removing them, even though it looks harsh from the outside, because it protects the clients and the rest of the team who are doing things right. Or think about telling someone you care about a hard truth instead of a comfortable lie. The truth stings immediately, but the lie costs them more later. The real question isn't, what makes me look like a good person right now? It's what actually produces the best outcome for the most people. Those two questions have different answers more often than you'd think, and most people, out of fear of looking harsh, keep choosing the wrong one. Law 7. Controlled exposure. Here's the 7th law, and it connects directly back to the first one on this list. But this time it's about timing, not just concealment. We're living in an era where everyone shares everything instantly, which means the person who reveals themselves slowly becomes strangely magnetic just by comparison. Machiavelli's take on human nature was almost cynical. People are simple enough and driven enough by their immediate needs that he who seeks to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived. The less concrete information people have about you, the more they fill in with assumptions, and those assumptions are usually working in your favor, not against you. Here's where it matters practically. Don't show every skill you have in your first week at a new job. Reveal your abilities gradually, so you look like someone who's constantly growing, rather than someone who peaked on day one and has nothing left to show. Timing changes how the exact same information lands. The same accomplishment sounds like bragging if you announce it too early, and sounds like quiet competence if it surfaces naturally, later, when it's actually relevant. This applies just as much online. Every post, every comment builds the mental picture other people carry of you. Manage that footprint on purpose, because you don't get to take information back once it's out. Law 8. Outcome obsession. And here's the last law, the one that ties all 7 others together, because without it, everything else on this list is just a party trick. You're not here to win arguments. You're here to get results. Average people spend their energy trying to prove they were right. Strategically intelligent people ask one question instead. What outcome do I actually want from this situation? That single question changes almost every decision that follows it. Watch what happens in a disagreement. The average person tries to prove the other side is wrong, which almost always triggers defensiveness and makes the other person dig in harder. The outcome-obsessed person asks a different question first. What am I actually trying to achieve here? Is it to be right, or is it to change this person's behavior? If it's the second one, it's often far more effective to let them arrive at the idea themselves than to defeat them in an argument and win nothing but a bruised ego on the other side. Machiavelli's own reasoning ran along similar lines. He argued that a promise made under yesterday's conditions can rightly be broken under today's, because clinging to consistency for its own sake, instead of to the actual goal, is how people lose. This is also where the 80-20 rule comes in. Spend most of your energy on the small number of actions that actually move you toward your goal, instead of staying busy just to look busy. Stay flexible about the method, stay stubborn about the target. So here's the whole model, compressed into one sentence. Withhold what you don't need to reveal. Adapt your delivery without abandoning your values. Release your grip on outcomes you're afraid to lose. Let your presence do the work instead of your volume. Reflect people's real needs back to them. Judge your actions by results instead of appearances. Reveal yourself on your own timeline, and never lose sight of the actual goal underneath the noise of being right. That's not manipulation. That's just refusing to be the last person in the room to figure out what game is actually being played.